So we'll be discussing the NRM manifesto and how far 2 years into this current term.
NBS Frontline. The country is in the middle of the national resistance 6th term, and the stakes are high for it to deliver on the promises made by the party chairman, Yoweri Museveni, on the 2021 electoral trail. For 2 weeks now, the government ministries have been presenting their achievements, challenges and possible solutions in the Manifesto Week, and doing so from Kampala, the city that is plagued with potholes and the leaders crying foul of the never-enough resources. As a matter of fact, the country beleaguered by challenges in the health sector that have forced medical professionals adopt a new language of strikes, yet the NRM brags of 60% achievement of the manifesto.
Government is gauged on what is received by the people they serve. You cannot praise yourself that you are doing well when the people who need the services are not getting services.
While the cost of living is just about to kill the living, the education system is wanting. Anything that could possibly go wrong is going wrong. With the parish development model, corruption scandals are almost eating up the entire cabinet and shootings are all over the country. So we ask, is this the way that the NRM is securing the future? Would Ugandans use the NRM manifesto to shoot the NRM into power for yet another term? This is The Frontline. NBS Frontline.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Frontline on NBS TV. My name is Charles Mwangushampagi. The month of securing the future of Uganda is so great a task for one to play bets on. It is not a gamble. It is a matter which requires lifelong commitment, unending sacrifice, and vast experience. NRM is the only political organization that can be trusted with the sacred responsibility of securing Uganda's future. That was the promise made 2 years ago as the national resistance movement sought yet another extension to its leadership of this country. Some people would say it's an exercise in futility to assess a party that's been in charge of this country for the last 37 years on only 2 years of its performance in its latest term in office. It will be tough for the people who speak for the party and the government, also tough for the critics to isolate the 2 years. But I have a capable pair of set of panelists this evening to make an attempt at assessing the performance of the national resistance movement over the last 2 years of its current term of office. I'll pick out just a few things. In line with our principled approach to economic development and growth, we have selected 5 priority areas of focus. They are creating wealth and jobs, delivering education and health, ensuring justice and equity, protecting life and property, and achieving economic and political integration. That was the promise. To discuss that with me tonight, let me start with the Honorable Hon Ssemujju Nganda. He's a frontliner, Member of Parliament for Kia Municipality, and spokesperson of the Forum for Democratic Change. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening to all viewers.
It's difficult to introduce Professor Ephraim Kamuntu from where he comes from, because most of the Ugandans who know him remember him as one of the leading politicians from Bushenyi district in Ankole sub-region, but now he comes from Mitoma district. Professor Ephraim Kamuntu.
Not quite. I come from Shema district.
From Shema district. No, you decided to split the great Bushenyi district in 2 tiny things. It's difficult to even track from Rubiri's Terubu Huejo, Mitoma to Shema, and the remaining Bushenyi district. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for inviting me to join the frontliners. Frontline in military terms means you are on the firing line.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And since you're appropriately dressed for that firing line tonight, we should be able to.
I hope I'll be able to defend myself, and if that fails...
And the colors you represent.
Oh, well, you are the chairman, so if I don't defend myself, you defend me, I guess, as chairman.
Very good to have you.
Thank you.
We have Frontliner, Executive Director at the Uganda Media Center, Ofono Opondo. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, Charles. And it's good to have these two good guests, I suppose.
And last but not least, allow me to introduce Professor Maurice Ogengala Tigo.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
I was teasing him that he looks much better outside the parliament and the government.
Yes, for very good reasons.
He should be asking you when you're joining him.
It is my pleasure to join after a very long time on your program.
Very nice to have you, Professor.
Yes, thank you.
I want to start with the very basic things. I read out the promises that the NRM made in the last manifesto, which is the 6th manifesto of an elective term for the NRM. I know Ofono Opondo will disagree with me on the count, but it's a total of 6 manifestos presented by the same presidential candidate who has gone ahead to win the presidential election, previously representing the no-party system, the individual merit system, and then to representing the political party called the National Resistance Movement since 2006. Mr. Ofono Opondo, is it realistically possible, or is it an exercise in futility, to try and assess the NRM government on the basis of the last 2 years in power of this current term for the time it's been in charge?
Yes, it is realistic. But before I go there, I just want to inform our viewers that actually today we are distinguished to have Professor Ephraim Kamuntu, who chaired the committee that wrote the 2021-26 manifesto. I think even the 2016-2021. I just want to make that clear so that if there is a miss,
you are centering him in the firing line.
Yes, it is possible. Why is it possible? Because each 5-year term, we give Ugandans what we shall be doing in the next 5 years. Quite often, some of the pledges are running, would not have been completed. So we can assist, and usually in our constitution, in our manifesto, we say those projects that are running that have not been completed. For example, a road from conception to design to execution usually takes 5-7 years. So we can account for those that we have completed in the last 2 years. Secondly, we also promise entirely new things. And we can get into that and say which ones did we promise out of 10 and which ones are we doing, at what stage are they. So it is possible to do so. Thirdly, there are emergencies that come along the way that are unforeseen. And it forces you to shift priorities, shift resources, shift efforts. And also, and those ones sometimes even become more contentious, more pronounced. Take in this particular term. We did not know that COVID would run this length, 2 years of complete lockdown of the country, of the whole world. We did not know that as we get out of COVID, we would enter Ebola. We did not know that as we do so, famine will erupt in some places. So sometimes those become actually the issues that you must attend to. So we can assess by making an account, an assessment of how did we respond to those unforeseen things. So it is possible to do so. But I think it is always good, both for the NRM and the people who want to critique the NRM, to also bear in mind that it is a government, is a group that has been running for the last 37 years. Some of the things, indeed, like now, peace, security, democratization, are things that you cannot say we have arrived. You keep seeing, you keep checking, assessing, particularly the qualitative aspect of the democracy, the qualitative aspect of services. Now look at universal education, for example. We introduced universal primary education in 1997. At that time, we talked of only 4 children. Midway, we said every child whose parents are saying they cannot afford, please come. Now we can go and assess completion, for example, school structures, welfare for teachers, the classrooms, laboratories for secondary schools, and libraries, things like that. We can assess completion rate. Even within completion rate, we can look at completion rate for the girl child, who were previously not thought about. I have told you on this show before that when I sat my primary 7 in 1977, we never transited to S1 with a single gun in my class from that Miranda Primary School. No gun transited from P7 to S1, or even to a TTC. Now today we can check out of, if you have a classroom of a candidate class of 60, how many girls are in that classroom and how many proceed to the next level. So we can make that assessment.
You make your point there.
Yeah.
Let me come to Hon Ssemujju Nganda and ask basically the same question. Can you draw a clear line on the 2 years for a government that's been in charge for a combined 37 years now, effectively, and provide an analysis, an audit of that performance?
I think you can, because at a parliamentary level, and even within our constitution, the president is asked to account every financial year. Because government will collect money, it will list what it will want to do in a year, and the president has a duty to report on the progress made annually. This year, I think on June 15th, is when he will be addressing Parliament. Unfortunately and legitimately, the question you are raising, Mr. Museveni has never addressed Parliament and focused on 1 year or 2 years. And many of the people who are working under him will do the same thing. They will want to speak from 1986 to date, because that way it is easier, because they don't want to be judged by the number of years they have been in power, but they want to be judged by the failures of all the regimes, the Professor Kamuntu's regimes. You know, Professor Kamuntu was UPC. I remember one time I interviewed him. Why he had joined NRM. He came to Parliament, must have been the 7th Parliament as UPC.
No.
I'll tell you, I interviewed you and you said the voters had told you. You are forgetting. The interview I did with you, and you said the voters are the ones who told you.
No, I will put the record right.
And I was disappointed that
the beauty is that
a whole professor was being told by peasants, now go to NRM, and he did.
No,
because I interviewed him. I'll show you the interview. But the point is, yes, it is possible, because every year government collects money. Is it possible to assess the progress of a 5-year term manifesto? I think it is possible. I saw the Prime Minister, Nabanja, reading a statement at what they call the launch, and I am sorry, Professor can correct me if I am wrong, But what I read, she said they had achieved 11% after 2 years, and 77 was 77%. They were making 77% progress in other areas. But if you asked me, last year there was a cabinet retreat, a midterm government performance review, and I think Dr. Ezra Suruma, who heads something manifesto implementation under the Office of Prime Minister, again I can be corrected, the figures that were presented at that retreat were figures of a failed government. And Dr. Ezra Suruma said we need to be humble, because their research showed that only 16% of community roads in Uganda are motorable. That is what was in the report that formally presented. And more than 50% of the children in primary school still fail literacy test at P6, and so on and so forth. That's why Dr. Ezra Suruma, in his report to that meeting, cabinet review, he said we need to be humble. These achievements will take the courage. So you need the courage of a professor to go on a TV and say we are doing well. That is mine, not
he hasn't said anything yet.
I said you will need the courage to go and say, and say that things are okay. But the assessment of government in a cabinet retreat presided over by the Prime Minister was that they had failed in the core social issues, at least by last year.
Thank you.
If there has been progress, maybe in the last 12 months, but by their own assessment, they were such a very big failure.
Professor Ephraim Kamunto, let me come to you. On Tuesday, there was a burial ceremony in Kijura of a man, a Private Sabiti, the one who is accused of shooting and killing
Charles.
Yes, Colonel Charles Sengola, the former Minister of State in charge of Labour. And there at the burial, a man called Joram Bintamanya, a local activist, said, Ugandans are hungry and angry. President Yoweri Museveni has been in Masaka, touring projects that are happening there. And he shifted responsibility from himself. He said, your government, I don't understand it anymore. The people you have in that government, me, I'm going back to Nsiko, because I don't understand your people in government. And the interpretation has been, he's basically disowning the government that he runs. You, like Ofonopondo has told us, have been involved and have chaired the manifesto committee, not once, not twice, but have been involved at every stage. What is your own assessment in light of the two examples I've just shared with you? The president's comments in Masaka and the comments by Joram Bintamanya in Kijura about Ugandans and the state of delivery on the manifesto that we're discussing this evening.
Well, Charles, let me first thank you very much. And let me thank NBS for arranging this program, Frontline. And indeed, I'm very pleased. I'm joining friends. I'm so pleased to see Maurice. Maurice, we did a lot of things together, particularly in development work. Human Development Index and all these life expectancy, and very nice man. Boris, good to see you.
Thank you.
And for Ibrahim, I want Charles to give me time so that I put this discussion in context.
Sure.
Yes, because we are looking at the NRM performance 2 years in office. So I begin from there. I begin from emphasizing the centrality of a manifesto in a multi-party political system. You have a manifesto which is a declaration of intentions, and I have a copy here. This NRM manifesto is for 5 years. And in the manifesto, you state what you intend to do and you present it as a platform to the electorate, together with other parties, including Forum for Democratic Change and the rest, and the electorate, on the basis of the manifestos, they make a choice. They make a choice on what manifesto realistically articulates their aspiration. And for 6 manifestos, which you have made reference to, NRM has been presenting them, and one after the other, the electorate has been choosing NRM as the best choice. Yes, as the best choice on the basis of what they have declared. In this one, it is 2 years now, because it starts from June 2021, 2022. Now we come to June 2022, 2023. From election 2021 up to now, these are 2 years now. Within the 2 years, really the relevance of this discussion is you want to ask, within the 2 years, how has NRM government performed on the promises
laid down in that
yes.
book?
So analytically, whatever that has been achieved in 2 years, you measure it on a time frame of 5 years, and you assess whether they are on track to fulfilling what is in here by the year 2026. So it is possible to analyze the performance of the party and government in the 2 years. And when it comes to that, yes, you ably articulated the major themes or priorities of this manifesto. So you can score it. You can score theme by theme, creating jobs and wealth. How has the party in government done on what they promised to do on that theme?
0.
Delivering, I will give you figures. You can't say 0 because I have the figures. You see, my brother Ibrahim has a, and I think we have ground rules.
No, you ask the question.
Yes,
the answer is
ground
0.
rules. So if I have a 5-year frame and I have gone 2 years, I want to look at these manifesto promises and assess whether I'm on track, what I have done in 2 years and what is remaining in 3 years. It is what that analysis gave the Prime Minister to say, and I have a report here which I can share with him. The Prime Minister articulated, based on analysis, he articulated 23 commitments in the manifesto have been achieved in 2 years. 77 are on track. 77 are on track. Given things being normal, by 2026, even the 77 which are on track, they are not yet done, but they are on track, they will be done. So that analysis is correct, because you track within the time frame whether you are able to do it, and every year you take stock. How far have you gone?
So if you look at
this week, let me conclude this one. Yes?
23 achieved, 77 on track.
Yes.
At the 2-year mark.
Within the 2 years.
The time.
Yeah?
Within 2 years.
Within 2 years.
You have 2 years, but you have 3 ahead of you.
Yes, you've covered 40% of the time of the term and achieved 23%, because that's about out of 100.
Yes, but that assumes uniformity. When you are starting, the starting takes a bit of time, because there is startup time. You begin. And Maurice, I'm sure you will help me out, because we did these things together. You are starting, and if you can recall, you have come out of elections, you have COVID, you shut down. That year is consumed. You have Ukraine.
Sorry to disturb Professor Kamund. Now they are looking for reasons for their failure. The president in Masaka was blaming parliament opposition.
No.
Now he is blaming COVID and Ebola.
No, but Charles, Isn't it true that there was COVID? Isn't it true that there was shutdown of the economy? Isn't it true that the Ukraine-Russian war? Isn't it true that this would impact?
I think our viewers and the people who voted for the NRM in 2021 will appreciate if you scored yourself.
Thank you very much.
Yes, if you scored yourself and outlined what you say are your achievements. You just talked about what the Prime Minister pointed out. 23 key areas, 77 still on track. So please go ahead. Professor, I'll come to you in a moment.
I was putting this discussion in context. If you are evaluating the performance of NRM government 2 years in its term of 5 years, and you look at commitments that were declared or stated in the manifesto, yes, the truth of the matter, there is no dispute. It is analyzed and it is not hidden. The point is 23 of the commitments in the manifesto 5 years have been achieved. 77 are not yet achieved, but they are on track. In some areas, there has been good progress. In other areas, there are slow progress. But overall, this is a summary. If you were to break it down commitment by commitment, yes, you will see variations. And that is contained in this report.
We'll come to those variations in a moment.
Variations are there. But I think the major point and useful comment is, what is the major goal of these manifestos? These manifestos are intended to move the country, because if you take NRM 10-point program of building an economy that is integrated, that is independent and self-sustaining, meaning it moves on its own steam. Then you have a vision, Uganda Vision 2040, which commits the country to transformation. And transformation is both in biology, it is in science, but in economic terms, transformation of an economy involves structural change, moving resources and labor from low productive areas to more high-value areas. In agriculture, it means changing from subsistence, changing from peasant economy to more commercialized, to more agro-processing. That is intended to move this country from being peasant and poor to being a more modern and prosperous state. It also requires this country moving from being third world, least developed country, to being a middle income country. So you should measure it. To what extent, how are we moving towards that goal? How are we moving that goal, a goal of economic takeoff? These manifestos must have a purpose. So we are not looking at numbers for the sake of numbers.
Absolutely,
we
Professor.
must want.
You take me to an area that actually it places the context of what I said at the beginning of the show, that to isolate 2 years out of a combined about 37 years can become a bit complicated. The initial promise, and I'm looking up the 10-point program, which I'll pick up in a bit, was to move this country from a poor, backward economy to a modern economy. How are we scoring on that? We had commitments on the fight against corruption, both in the manifesto that we're discussing now, and in the 10-point program, and in the 6 manifestos, that on which basis the NRM has run and won. And we have the context of a viewer here has asked the team in production to find us that clip from Kijura and also find us that clip from Masaka of the president. I hope we'll be able to find them at some stage. Are we really on track? Is the NRM government really on track on those commitments?
Can I answer this one?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Let's conceptually, if you can see an economy like it is taxing, like a plane is taxing on runway to take off, and you are gaining momentum for takeoff. Yes, we can look back to 1986 and see how far we have been taxing and how near we are towards takeoff. And you can, without any dispute, to say that sustainable peace, security, and stability is an anchor for everything to move. There should be no dispute.
Are you not afraid that you're running out of runway?
No, we are on track. If you look back and see the size of economy, surely, Charles, you must agree. If you look at the size of economy and what it takes for economy to reach that takeoff stage, if you look at the total exports that we had and the total exports we had today, you can see taxing. If you look at the number of factories that have been established as a way of transformation, because I'm pleased, Maurice, you have. Transformation means, particularly when it comes to agriculture, it means moving from peasant subsistence to more commercialized, to more agro-processing, to more value addition. And if you look at that spectrum, surely there has been tremendous movement. The number of factories in the country are in thousands instead of what it was 1986.
Okay. Let me pass it on to Professor
Where I'm not yet done.
Yes.
What I wanted also to
you
mention.
see, the trouble with Professor Kamund, he said he wants to put this debate in context. They have achieved 23. He has not said anything they have achieved. The 77,
No,
and now he needs an hour.
No. Look, Ibrahim, I am saying if you want a useful debate on what NRM has done to achieve the goal of transformation, of becoming a middle-income country, of being a prosperous country, then you should also agree that clearly there has been a movement forward, and what we are looking at now is a critical point, a turning point in our journey to take off.
Okay. Professor...
And I have given you statistics, whether it is security, peace, and whether it is the size of economy, whether it is the export, things which make an economy grow, whether it is paved roads, whether it is electricity, whether it is education, access to education and health. All these, just statistics, I can roll them out. The statistics indicate there has been positive movement.
The beauty with having two professors on the front line this evening is that they can engage on that contextual analysis
and
of what we're discussing.
Look, even life expectancy.
Let me just, Professor,
Ugandans live longer.
At the beginning of the show,
So
I did pick out the key areas of focus for the manifesto for 2021-2026. I did pick those out. I'll pick them up again. But let me also run through the 10-point program. I saw Ofono Pondo shaking his head. Point number 1, democracy. Number 2, security. Number 3, consolidation of national unity and elimination of all forms of sectarianism. Point number 4, defending and consolidating national independence. Point number 5, building an independent, integrated, and self-sustaining national economy. Point number 6, restoration and improvement of social services and the rehabilitation of the war-ravaged areas. Point number 7, elimination of corruption and misuse of power. Point number 8, redressing errors that have resulted in the dislocation of sections of the population and improvement of others. Point number 9, cooperation with other African countries in defending human and democratic rights of our brothers in other parts of Africa. Point number 10, following an economic strategy of mixed economy. I'll quickly pick up the commitments of the manifesto 2021 to 2026. And I started with this quote. The mantle of securing the future of Uganda is so great a task for one to play bets on. It's not a gamble. It is a matter which requires lifelong commitment, unending sacrifice, and vast experience. NRM is the only political organization that can be trusted with the sacred responsibility of securing Uganda's future. Specific commitments from in this manifesto that Professor has here. In line with a principled approach to economic development and growth, we have selected 5 priority areas of focus. They are creating wealth and jobs.
Yes.
Delivering education and health.
Yes.
Ensuring justice and equity. Protecting life and property. and achieving economic and political integration. How is the NRM government scoring in these 2 years of the 5-year term?
Well, thank you very much, Charles, and my 3 colleagues. We haven't met for quite a bit of time. I occasionally see my young brother Ibrahim tussling it out in Parliament, and I get amused because some years ago, Ssemujju used to moderate the Saturday talk show, and it was out of some of those occasions that I told him, Ibrahim, it is easy to criticize us in the House, but please, the best thing you can do for this country is join. And he has joined, and he's playing a good role, the kind of approach that I normally used to take, deal with the facts. My big problem is that a campaign manifesto is never a government program.
No.
A campaign manifesto is something that you put together to make you look better than everybody else so that you win the votes. After winning the votes and taking leadership, then you have to implement programs that count. And when you discuss the success of the NRM manifesto from that perspective, I personally run into problems.